It's the winter of 1847 in the Sierra Nevada mountain range, and the Donner Party is stranded in the vicinity of Truckee Lake. The various families are separately camped in a number of old hunting cabins, with some of them separated by nearly a day's trek. Survival is bleak. I'm Jake Storielli, and welcome to the special Part 2 episode of Laughs from the Past.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Laughs from the Past, Season 8, Episode 7. It is a two-parter. If you missed last week's episode, no real reason to listen to this one. First, go back, catch yourself up. We're doing the Donner Party, and we left off right as they arrived to Truckee, like Jake said, and danger is about to ensue, Jake?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. If you want to listen to this episode, I think you and I, real quick, we should do one of those. If there's like a two-part episode on TV, they do like the montage. So I think we should just say like a bunch of key words to start, and
okay,
that'll be the Lansford Hastings, the Emigrant's Guide to the Oregon Trail.
Jim Bridgers, bad guy.
I'm crooked. Thanks for the gun, Virginia.
Here we go.
Two-level wagon.
Two-level wagon. They're caught up officially. Two-level wagon. Still kind of blowing my mind over here.
Two-level wagon is in our rear view.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think happened to the two-level wagon? You think they're still, like, man, that must have been
a meltdown.
Virginia.
Someone had a meltdown.
Virginia probably did, because it was the Reed's wagon. She's the daughter. She's like, it's cold. I like sitting by the stove. I got my top bunk. And they're like, hey, sorry, honey, we're going to have to ditch this wagon.
Oh, dude, it was right after the murder.
Think so?
Yeah.
Damn. All right. So they're holed up in Truckee at cabins that previous pioneers had made, which is like a good find. If we're being honest, at least they found some cabins. Some
Felt
are
like a great find.
Some are a day's trek away from each other, and also at that point, maybe that's for the best.
Yeah,
these guys, they gotta hate each other.
I mean, what's a day's trek when there's 10 feet of snow outside?
Well, I think that's what's making it a day.
Right.
I think it's probably 2 hours, and then with 10 feet of snow, it's like takes like 5 hours to get there. I'm guessing a day's trek means like 5 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're factoring in the snow and everything. So, I mean, they're apart, but yeah.
60 members and associates of the Breen, Graves, Reed, Murphy, Kesseberg, and Eddy families set up for the winter at Truckee Lake. Farther down the trail, close to Alder Creek, the Donner families hastily constructed tents to house 21 people, including Mrs. Wolfinger, her child, and the Donner's drivers. Nearly 2/3 of the migrants at Truckee Lake were children. That's the shit that'll make you sad. Okay. So
good opening line to the next paragraph.
Life at Truckee Lake was miserable. The cabins were cramped and filthy, and it snowed so much that people were unable to go outdoors for days. Diet soon consisted of ox hide, strips of which were boiled to make a disagreeable glue-like jelly. Ox and horse bones were boiled repeatedly to make soup, and they became so brittle that they would crumble upon chewing. Sometimes they were softened by being charred and eaten. Bit by bit, the Murphy children picked apart the oxhide rug that lay in front of their fireplace, roasted it in the fire, and ate it. Oh.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're out, we're minute 3 into this episode, and we've got people already hungry enough to eat a rug, and I've never been there.
Why'd even make a rug? Why, if you're like the Indians could have taught them some tricks about using every part of the animal correctly.
Well, dude, they're saying that was there. This is an old ox rug that was in the cabin that they were like, oh.
Where'd it say that?
This is edible. I thought it said, let's see. Picked apart the oxhide rug lay in front of their fireplace. So it could have been a fresh rug, I suppose.
Yeah, I think
either way, the rug became food for them.
Yeah, just go straight to food. Skip the rug part. Margaret Reed had managed to save enough food for a Christmas pot of soup, to the delight of her children. But by January, they were facing starvation and considered eating the ox hides that served as their roof. One day, the Graves came by to collect on a debt owed by the Reeds and took the ox hides, all that the family had to eat. Whoa, the Graves. Collecting on a debt in the middle of starvation and death? That's some bullshit.
Hey, people will do anything to protect their family.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some worse.
Yeah.
than stealing ox hides.
That you were owed.
Margaret Reed had managed to save enough food. Oh, already read that. So the forlorn hope. The mountain party at Truckee Lake began to fail. Spitzer died. Then Bayless Williams, a driver for the Reeds, almost died. More from malnutrition, also died. More from malnutrition than starvation. Franklin Graves fashioned what?
It wasn't starvation, people. It was just malnutrition.
What's the difference?
It's an interesting point. I guess you're putting something in your body, but it has no nutrients. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, just ate snow a lot, and they were like,
"Oh, he was just malnutrition. Is you're eating stuff? Yeah, you're eating stuff that shouldn't be eaten. So yeah, it's basically the same thing.
Like old rugs.
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay. Franklin Graves fashioned 14 pairs of snowshoes out of oxbows and hide. A party of 17 men, women, and children were set out on foot in an attempt to cross the mountain pass. They packed lightly, taking what had become 6 days' rations, a rifle, a blanket each, a hatchet, and some pistols, hoping to make their way to Bear Valley. 2 of those without snowshoes, Charles Berger and 10-year-old William Murphy, turned back early on. Thank God 10-year-old William Murphy without snowshoes was like, hey, guys.
Yeah.
I can't keep up.
Not looking good. Not looking great for us back here.
You guys are walking on top of the snow at ease.
Yeah.
And here I am sinking. The rest of the 15 members would become known as the Forlorn Hope. We have a bold and highlighted warning. Warning to listeners. If you don't do well with death and cannibalism, you should probably skip the rest of this whole story and leave it to your imagination. Do you want to bounce, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, that's exciting. I do great with death and cannibalism, so.
The snowshoes proved to be awkward but effective on the arduous climb. The members of the party were neither well-nourished nor accustomed to camping in snow 12 feet deep, and by the third day, most were snowblind. The group set out again the morning of December 21st. Stan had been dragging behind for several days, and he remained behind, saying he would follow shortly. His remains were found in that location the following year. Sad. The group became lost and confused. What was their goal? Like, get help?
Get anything. Help, find a different area, find anything.
They were looking for a Native American settlement, says producer Noah. Okay, makes sense. The group became lost and confused. After 2 more days without food, Patrick Dolan proposed one of them should volunteer to die in order to feed the others. Some suggested a duel, while another account describes an attempt to create a lottery to choose a member to sacrifice. One member suggested that they keep moving until someone simply fell, but a blizzard forced the group to halt. Antonio, the animal handler, was the first to die. Franklin Graves was the next casualty. You want to talk about them, like that proposal by Patrick Dolan?
Tough break for Antonio, only mentioned in the story, the animal handler. He's first to die. Yeah, I mean, we've stumbled into what would be the first, I don't want to say appealing movie scene, but boy, is that a movie scene. I mean, basically when it's realized that the next person dead needs to be eaten, and ideally soon. Yeah, I mean, just that conversation of dual lottery system, or I love the survival of the fittest approach. Like, hey, next one to drop your food. And like, that's really fun. Cause what if they land on that and someone just stumbles, like someone trips and they're like, oh yes. Oh
yeah. Jesus. You thought I was dead, didn't you? Sorry.
You're about to eat me. Nope. Just on a rock.
Just winded myself, knocked myself out real quick. I mean, you got to be cautious of like sleeping too hard.
Yeah.
As the blizzard progressed, Patrick Dolan began to rant deliriously, stripped of his clothes, and ran into the woods. He returned shortly afterwards and died a few hours later. Not long after, possibly because Murphy was near death, some of the group began to eat flesh from Dolan's body. I mean, he was the one that said, you know, let's kill someone and become meat for the food. Dolan was. So I guess when he finally passes, they're like, hey, this is what he wanted. This is his idea. So they eat flesh. Lemuel's sister tried to feed some to her brother, but he died shortly afterwards. Eddie, Salvador, and Lewis refused to eat. The next morning, the group stripped the muscle and organs from the bodies of Antonio, Dolan, Graves, and Murphy. They dried them to store for the days ahead, taking care to ensure nobody would have to eat his or her relatives. Oh. Yeah. I mean, hey, you're eating Dolan, but I will not eat Graves. Got to have some morals in cannibalism.
Yeah. Sure. To ensure nobody would have to eat their relatives. Yeah, that's nice.
They had them in little Ziploc baggies. Dolan. After 3 days rest, they set off again, searching for the trail. What trail? No one's done this before. Eddie eventually succumbed to his hunger and ate human flesh, but that was soon gone. They began taking apart their snowshoes to eat the oxhide webbing and discussed killing Lewis and Salvador for food. Before Eddie warned the 2 men, and they quietly left. Hey, we're thinking about eating you guys. So
I know you guys probably already know this, but people are talking about eating you.
And just wanted to give you a little heads up that if things don't get better anytime soon, we're thinking about killing and eating you.
And by the way, Jim,
Lewis and Salvador.
You're talking about the trail / lack thereof. I mean, when it says Luis and Salvador left, where are you going?
they're just going to hang back, wait for these guys to die, and then
like,
eat them.
Literally turned left. They left.
Jay Fosdick died during the night, leaving only 7 members of the party, Eddie and Mary Graves, left to hunt. But when they returned with deer meat, Fosdick's body had already been cut apart for food.
Okay, so we do have another really good movie scene here. Because maybe this is the first time in the movie we've seen Hope for a while. Because it sounds like Eddie and Mary, they killed a deer.
Yes.
Or they found a deer. Which, I mean, just had to be this huge moment of elation. And they're probably talking about, they each sneak a bite for themselves. But they're like, let's not be bad. Let's turn the group around. And then they get back and they're already balls deep eating Fosdick.
They're like, hey, we found deer meat. And they're like, we're good on Fosdick.
Yeah.
You guys can have the deer. Fosdick was good. So yeah. Oh, we have a picture here of William Eddy.
That's good.
He looks like a nice chap. Kind. I think he looks kind, Jake.
Over it. You
don't care about him?
Yeah, rather. I kind of prefer not putting faces to names.
Okay. Well, I'm going to show anyone who's listening. Never mind. After several more days, 25 days since they had left Truckee Lake, 25, they came across Salvador and Luis, who had not eaten for about 9 days and were close to death. So yeah, you're wondering where Salvador and Luis went? Not far. Not far at all. They were kind of just like hanging back.
Good for Salvador and Luis, man. Two buddies just going out together, not going to eat each other.
William Foster shot the pair. Believing their flesh. They're like, fuck. We told you guys we were going to kill you. I mean, they had a fair warning. Believing their flesh was the rest of the group's last hope of avoiding imminent death from starvation. On January 12th, the group stumbled into a Miwok Native American camp looking so deteriorated that the camp's inhabitants initially fled. The Miwoks gave them what they had to eat: acorns, grass, and pine nuts. After a few days, Eddie continued on with the help of a Miwok to a ranch in a small farming community at the edge of the Sacramento Valley. A hurriedly assembled rescue party found the other 6 survivors on January 17th. Their journey from Truckee Lake had taken 33 days, and 6 of the original 15 had made it. To be honest, I'm kind of shocked that they did that. That's kind of a success in a way.
Yeah, I mean, net, everything considered, that's it's shocking that any of them did.
I wanted to see like the Miwok Native. Are the Miwoks? No, it doesn't look like they're like Eskimos. So they just knew how to survive the winter, I guess. Oh, they had they had badass huts.
And I mean, it sounds like, they basically, look what they were eating: acorns, grass, and pine nuts. It sounds like they did basically a hibernation.
Yeah. Look at the cool huts they had. Like, that's how you stay warm in winter.
It's a pretty diesel hut. That's like Hobbit meets Native American.
Yeah. Good job by them. So yeah. All right. I'm like very interested to see where this goes now because I'm surprised that 6 made it. We get first relief. Much of the military in California were engaged in the Mexican-American War, and with them, the able-bodied men were out fishing. 2 local newspapers reported that members of the Snowshoe Party had resorted to cannibalism, which helped to foster sympathy for those who were still trapped and helped to raise a relief party. Oh, so the cannibalism helped out, made them made everyone sympathize with them.
Gotta have a good news story.
On February 18th, 1989, I was born. But on February 18th, whatever year this was, the 7-men rescue party scaled Fremont Pass, now Donner Pass. As they neared where Eddie told them the cabins would be, they began to shout. Mrs. Murphy appeared from a hole in the snow, stared at them, and asked, "Are you men from California, or do you come from heaven?"
God, been there.
Real question. The relief party doled out food in small portions, concerned that it might kill them if the emancipated migrants overate. All the cabins were buried in snow. Sodden oxide roofs had begun to rot, and the smell was overpowering. 13 people at the camps were dead, and their bodies had been loosely buried in the snow near the cabin roofs. 23 people were chosen to go back with the rescue party. Okay. Leaving 33 people remaining at Truckee Lake. The rescuers concealed the fate of the snowshoe party, informing the rescued migrants only that they did not return because they were frostbitten. After several days more travel through difficult country, the rescuers grew very concerned that the children would not survive. Some of them ate the buckskin fringe from one of the rescuers' pants and the shoelaces of another, to the relief of party's surprise. On their way down from the mountains, they met the next rescue party, which included James Reed. Upon hearing his voice, Margaret sank in the snow, overwhelmed. 2 of the 23 members would not make it back. When the group made it to Sutter's Fort, Virginia Reed wrote, "I really thought I had stepped over into paradise." She was amused to note one of the young men asked her to marry him, although she was only 12 years old and recovering from starvation. But she turned him down. Whoa, okay, so much going on.
Dude.
So much going on, because now I want to comment on that, but there was things I wanted to comment on earlier. First, I was like, when they said the rescue party, like they were eating shoelaces and shit, I was like, dude, you're a rescue party. How could you not come prepared or handle this properly? But then 21 of the 23 people made it back, and they were already in very, very poor shape. So actually, good job by the rescue party.
Yeah, rescue party did a great job. Interesting scene when they're choosing who should go back and who should stay. Both kind of scary options. I wonder how they divvied that out. Like, hey, if you stay, we'll give you a little more food. You wonder how that played out. And then, yeah, I mean, it's easy to ignore kids eating shoelaces here, but that's where we're at.
And then the person that asked this 12-year-old starved, miserable girl to marry him, I hope they just described him as a young man. I hope he was like 12 to 14 as well.
Yeah, A, you have to jump into the times a little bit. But B, also, hey, I'm glad we've still got a true romantic in the group. It was like,
classic
hey,
damsel in distress. If she doesn't say yes now, she'll never say yes.
We were, maybe the good Lord put us through this for a reason, and then this is the reason. And then she's just like, no, wasn't that.
And then the other thing I wanted to note on is James Reed's part in this whole thing is a zigzag of like bad guy, good guy, bad guy, good guy. I mean, him to come back. I mean, his kids and wife are there, I guess.
Yeah.
But kind of crazy. Here's the second relief effort. On March 1st, so like 2 weeks later, a second relief party arrived at Truckee Lake, including James Reed. No one at Truckee Lake had died during the interim between the departure of the first and the arrival of the second relief party. That's great. Yeah. Patrick Breen documented a disturbing visit in the last week of February from Mrs. Murphy, who said her family was considering eating Milt Elliott. Reed and McCutcheon... What?
I get it.
Yeah. Reed and McCutcheon found Elliott's mutilated body. The Alder Creek camp, where the Donner family was, fared no better. The first two members of the relief party to reach it saw Trudeau carrying a human leg. When they made their presence known, he threw it into a hole in the snow that contained the mostly dismembered body of Jacob Donner. Inside the tent, Elizabeth Donner refused to eat, although her children were being nourished by their father's organs. The rescuers discovered three other bodies had already been consumed. The second relief evacuated 17 migrants from Truckee Lake. However, the Breen and Graves families would all perish on the trek through the mountains. Oh.
Not as good.
The second relief rescue crew sucked.
Yeah, I mean, straight up bad times throughout.
Yeah.
A lot of death, a lot of eating.
Oh, this is a cool picture. It shows how high the snow was. Do you see the trees?
Yeah.
They cut them at the top of the snow. So the snow was like 10 feet high, 15 feet high.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I always like those images of snow towns where the stop signs are like the snow's over the stop signs, or they put new signs in on top, and then you get to see how high it is. Like, fuck. Third relief party. I'm hoping the third relief party is the first relief party that's now doubling back, because they were great. 21 out of 23. I mean, did the second relief party go over?
I think they got a couple bodies. It's not listed. Evacuated 17, and the Breen and the Graves didn't make it. So I don't know what that looks like.
All right. Well, the third relief party, Foster and Eddie, finally arrived at Truckee Lake on March 14th, where they found that all their children had perished. Kesselberg told Eddie that he had eaten the remains of Eddie's son. Eddie swore to murder Kesselberg if they ever met in California. Kesselberg also claimed that at some point between the second and third reliefs, Tamsin Donner had arrived at his cabin, soaked and visibly upset. Kesselberg said he put a blanket around her and told her to start out in the morning, but she died during the night. The salvage party was suspicious of Kesselberg's story and found a pot full of human flesh in the cabin, along with George Donner's pistol, jewelry, and $250 in gold. The men threatened to lynch Kesselberg, who confessed he had taken $273 of the Donner's money at Tamsin's suggestion so that it could one day benefit her children. The party remained suspicious. Got to be honest. I'm suspicious as well.
Yeah.
Especially when this dude made a 70-year-old guy walk and then die early on in the trip.
Yeah, I could get over that. He just ate a dude's kid.
Yeah, just a bad guy. I mean, it's just long time coming. Bad guy before the cannibalism even started, is what I was saying. There's a photo of him below. Oh, yeah. So this guy is like this. He's like the scary guy in Shovel Guy in Home Alone.
Yeah, I mean, Kesselberg looks like he invented evil. Yeah, not good.
Yeah, looks like a bad guy.
Evil haircut, evil eyes, yeah.
When was this picture taken?
It's last week. Still healthy.
All right. So I'm guessing this guy stays bad for a while. Let me get out of there. Go back to the story. The salvage party was suspicious. Foster and Eddie and the rest of the third relief left with 4 children, Trudeau and Clark, with Kesselberg following behind. On April 29th, 1847, Kesselberg was the last member of the Donner Party to arrive at Sutter's Fort. Of the 87 people who entered the Wasatch Mountains, 48 survived. Only the Reed and Breen families remained intact. How crazy is that? There was a Reed's family's like whole idea.
Yeah. And I don't know, might have to double check some because it says in 2 paragraphs earlier we said that the Breen and Graves families would all perish on the trek through the mountains. Um, so maybe we had a family mix up there, but either way, if 2 families made it out, that's shocking.
Kesselberg brought Kesselberg brought a defamation suit against several members of the Relief Party who accused him of murdering Tamsin Donner. Jesus. The court awarded him $1 in damages, but also made him pay court costs. I mean, so this is a guy,
Classic.
This is a guy who admittingly said, yes, Eddie, I ate your son. I had to do it. But now is suing them for defamation.
Yeah.
Over killing Tamsin.
I don't want people out there thinking I'm a bad guy.
Yeah, I did eat your son. I didn't kill your wife. Jeez.
Yeah. Chill out.
Ugh. They awarded him $1 in damages, but also made him pay court costs. So I'm guessing he lost money. An 1847 story printed in the California Star described Kesselberg's actions in ghoulish terms and his near lynching by the salvage party. It reported that he preferred eating human flesh over the cattle and horses that had become exposed in the spring thaw. Historian Charles McGlasson amassed enough material to indict Kesselberg for the murder of Tamsin Donner, but after interviewing him, he concluded no murder occurred. As Kesselberg grew older, he did not venture outside, for he had become a pariah and was often threatened. He was quoted saying, "I often think that the Almighty has singled me out among all the men on the face of the earth in order to see how much hardship, suffering, and misery a human being can bear." He's got somewhat of a point. I don't know his journey.
He does. He absolutely does. I mean, yes, not a good guy, and he's done some bad stuff, but like to make him the example of the Donner Party is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, because they were all eating each other.
Yeah.
And some of it,
like it's we're gonna give everybody else extenuating circumstances, but not Kesselberg.
Yeah, it's true. I have not. I mean, the guys on the trip shot Luis and Salvador. Are they? But then, and didn't they survive? They made it. They were part of the 7 of the 20.
Just doing what we did to make it, you know.
Yeah, so they killed and ate. This dude killed and ate, but he's the only one getting the bad rap.
Yeah.
Fuck. I think this is a letter that Virginia Reed wrote to her cousin Mary. "I have not wrote to you half the trouble we have had, but I have wrote enough to let you know that you don't know what trouble is. But thank God we have all got through and the only family that did not eat human flesh. We have left everything, but I don't care for that. We have got through with our lives, but don't let this letter dishearten anybody. Never take no cutoffs and hurry along as fast as you can." A great letter from Virginia there.
Yeah, I'm almost gonna call BS. I think the Reeds did eat some humans. They're trying to skate through this.
I will agree with you there, but I like that she opens up to her cousin Mary Keys, little 14-year-old girl, you know, probably like got sunburnt and her boy crush turned her down, and she's like, "I have not wrote to you. I just want to let you know that you don't know what trouble is." That's fair. Anyone that has been on Donner Party can now say that to anyone else. You don't know what trouble is.
That's also like the worst thing you could tell a teenage girl, though.
Oh yeah, of course. Very patronizing, but she got a right to be.
That's a disaster. But yeah, this is well, I'm hitting some final thoughts, but I think we've got is this a letter back or another part of the letter or a new letter?
This is Mary Graves to her sister after the ordeal. "I will now give you some good and friendly advice. Stay at home. You are in a good place, where, if sick, you are not in danger of starving to death. It's great advice.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Strong. Plays today.
It's huge. Good job, Mary. All right, so this is the reaction to the whole ordeal. Reporting on the event across the U.S. was heavily influenced by the national enthusiasm for westward migration. In some papers, news of the tragedy was buried in small paragraphs, despite the contemporary tendency to sensationalize stories. Several newspapers, including those in California, wrote about the cannibalism in graphic, exaggerated detail. In some print accounts, the members of the Donner Party were depicted as heroes, and California a paradise worthy of significant sacrifices. Lansford Hastings, who had convinced the party to use the Hastings cutoff in the first place, received death threats. A migrant who crossed before the Donner Party confronted him about the difficulties they had encountered, reporting, of course he could say nothing, but that he was very sorry and that he meant well.
Cool.
What about Bridgers? That guy's a jerk too. And then here we have the legacy and the current thoughts. The fact remains that even though cannibalism did not dominate the vast majority of the story of the Donner Party, it has become an enduring legacy of the party. Truth be told, the chief theme of the story lay in the dreadful irony that hopes of prosperity, health, and a new life in California's fertile valleys led many only to misery, hunger, and death on the journey there. Yeah.
For sure.
The site of the cabins became a tourist attraction as early as 1854, although the cabins no longer remain. Wow. The face of this rock formed the fireplace of the Murphy cabin where were buried the ill-fated members of the Donner Party. Where were buried the ill-fated members of the Donner Party in the winter of 1846, 1847. I mean, we're talking about like 7 years after they started making this a tourist place. So I'm guessing the cabin was up against this rock, and they used the rock as the fireplace.
It's a lean-to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird. I mean, there's got to be books written on it. As our weird society copes with tragedy, the different ways we do it.
The state of California created the Donner Memorial State Park in 1927. Noting that it was an isolated and tragic incident of American history that has been transformed into a major folk epic. Cool. So that's the end there. We have some talking points. This is low-key all Lansford Hastings and Jim Bridgers' fault, both of whom convinced the Donner Party to take the route they did. And I would agree, right? I mean, we got to put a lot of blame on those two dudes.
Yeah, Hastings with the book. I mean, come on, dog. That's pretty brutal. And then Bridgers. Yeah. Yes. And the first crooked man in history.
The rest of Lansford Hastings' life is pretty interesting. The lawyer went on to fight in John C. Fremont's California Battalion in the Mexican-American War and later participated law in San Francisco. For the rest of his life, Hastings promoted various schemes. He suggested the Colorado River as a water route from California to Utah. He volunteered to command a rebel army that would take California for the Confederacy during the Civil War. He eventually died in the Virgin Islands while conducting former Confederates to Brazil, where he dreamed of setting up a republic. Oh, so he was just a fucking schemer from the jump.
Such a schemer. Early schemer. Firefest level schemer.
So there was nothing innocent about him hit that route. Like for a little bit, I thought maybe, he published it with good intentions, and just when he realized he was wrong and going to endanger people, he never snapped out of it and did the right thing. But no, dude, never had good intentions besides just self-promotion and being a schemer.
Yeah.
Shitty. Ooh, this is a great note. Abraham Lincoln considered going with the Donner Party. Lincoln was a friend of James Reed. When Reed's businesses began to fail due to a national economic downturn, Lincoln counseled his friend, and just before the wagon caravan departed for the West, Lincoln helped Reed through bankruptcy proceedings. Many years after the Donner Party tragedy, one of Reed's daughters revealed that Lincoln seriously considered joining the caravan, but ultimately didn't go due to the opposition from his wife. Tell you right now, I don't believe that, having be someone that read a ton about Abraham Lincoln and how his brain worked, and that this was just like Reed's daughter. Reed definitely told his daughter, Lincoln was going to join us if it wasn't for his damn wife. Lincoln was like the most thorough and thought out dude like ever. He's not going to just, he probably would have, if he did go, he would not have taken the wrong fork in the road. I'll tell you that.
And it's funny, I've been listening to this, some pro football players, they're just talking about their like recruiting college process and talking about, where they would go, blah, blah, blah. And Matt Leinart, University of Southern Cal quarterback, LA kid, LA guy through and through, and now he's lived like an LA lifestyle. He's talking about like, yeah, Michigan recruited me and I seriously thought about it. And he also says like, he mentioned that to his mother once and she broke down in tears. So I think there's a difference between people saying they seriously thought about it and actually thinking about doing it.
Yes.
Like, yeah, Lincoln thought about it. You mentioned it. He ran it through his head once and then he said, nope. And he blamed it on his wife.
Yeah.
But he seriously considered.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to bring Noah and Luke. I don't know if Luke's still here, our producers, and Noah wrote this episode in. Noah, did you know a lot before you researched this story?
Not really. I mean, I thought I knew the cannibalism part, obviously. I didn't know how many warnings they had before they decided to take the Hastings cutoff. Like, there was like 3 different times where they could have bailed, but they ended up kind of, through ignorance and deception, ended up kind of like a perfect storm of taking that route.
Yeah, I kind of, for me, I always thought it was weird that so many things were named after them, like Donner Lake, Donner Pass. And I was like, why are we memorializing this group of cannibals? But then when you hear the whole story, there is like a part of it that's like, well, these were like survivors. They got duped into a wrong pass and they did what they had to do to survive. But then you got guys like Kesselberg and the crew that shot Lewis and Salvador. And it's like, if all they did was eat the people that died naturally, I don't think there's anything that it's upsetting, but it's a survival story. The murders suck. How about that?
Yeah, for me, I can't figure out who's the biggest bad guy. And that's
it's Kesselberg. Kesselberg, 100%. Look at him. Look at the picture of him.
Yeah, but then he lives like the sad life, and I kind of agree. He's the only one who got called out for doing what he had to do, but he is also the only one who made it clear, like, hey, buddy, I ate your son, which isn't a good look.
And stole their gold.
Honest
and
man.
Stealing the money, that's bad.
It's not, I mean, Kesselberg, he's just another agent in this. I mean, Kesselberg, if he was put into this position by the other bad guys, so I think they do take priority. The guy who made the map, and then Bridgers for hiding it. But, yeah, I mean, not a good guy, but I think that's what makes the Donner story something that people are still talking about and will talk about, is that there are these weird pieces of Americana tied into it of, like, go west. Like, that was kind of everyone's solution. Like, hey, let's go west. It's a land of new opportunity. And I feel like this was one of the first stories that came back that was like, hey, maybe don't go west. And then it also turns into, like, caring about your family, caring about yourself. What do you do in this situation? And it's kind of this whole, the scope of it covers so much.
I'm still lost with Hastings' overall plan. If he knew there was no shot they were getting back there, but he wanted to make money off the trail or notoriety or whatever. Why would he tell them to go? Because he probably knew that was going to backfire, and that ended up with him getting death threats. Because now he knows he sent 87 people down a trail that they're not going to make it through.
I don't know.
I think it was just chicken shit. He was just he didn't have the stones to say, I screwed up, you guys can't do this. He was hoping they either figured it out on his own, or, you know, hey, maybe they did make it through and he's a secret genius or something. But yeah.
Hey Jake, and you know I love to go back to this. Does this story align with your idea that everyone in the past has proven to be dumber than people in time?
Interesting. I mean,
like, if you're part of the party, do you take that fork in the road or do you go north?
God, I mean, it's for me, that's the appeal of, I mean, again, like early Americana, like finding the new way. These are people that are leaving their lives to go jet set. So I think the potential of finding a new, quicker way to do this, I think there's easy appeal in that. And I think that's, I don't know. I don't think any of these jump out as, because like we said, I think that one pivot point of when they want to get rid of the previous leader and that they make a deal like, hey, we'll get rid of the leader and we'll just stay on this path, but you can't lead anymore. I think that's where the cards all fall, because everything else here is human nature. I mean, wanting to take the new path that's supposed to be easier and can save you a day. And I don't know,
think
when
they
your
didn't
back's against the wall and you got to survive.
They didn't know that no wagons had done the path before, right? Because people had done the path before, their warnings didn't get back to them. I think if they knew like no wagons have ever done this before, they wouldn't have done it. But that was part of the like trickery of it all. Because like there were pioneers back in the day. Like there was people who blazed trails for others, and like women and children were not trailblazers. They followed trails that were already blazed. So I think they thought they were going on a trail that had been done before, but it hadn't been done by wagons.
Yeah, the women and children are the part that throw it off, because it's like, then that makes it easier to say you're the bad guy if you decide that your family has to go through this instead of taking a path you knew is safer. If they decided to go on their own, they're definitely not the bad guy. They risked it, but that's also where it's hard for me to pinpoint who's really in the wrong here, because bringing your like 12-year-old daughter on that path doesn't seem like the best move.
You know who would do this? My dad. My dad loves a good shortcut, even if it's longer in the end. Like he loves going a route that he thinks he discovered. Oh, I found this. Like take the exit here. We'll cut through this town and we'll hop back on. Like, and then like it's 20 minutes longer and we're stuck in like traffic in the middle of a town. So I've always been against that. So maybe I would have been like, no, let's just go the way we know works. That's what it comes down to in the end. But
it's probably more scenic.
Oh, they took the most scenic trail. We've driven through that. Anyone that's driven on Highway 50 in California to go to Tahoe, like that is what they were doing. And for anyone that hasn't, like, I didn't like driving on it. It's scary. It's like bending through the mountains, very, very steep on the side. And like, you have to go so slow and you have to really wrap on the edge because it's insane. All right. That ends our first 2-part episode. Thank you guys very much for listening and hope you enjoyed. Hope your stomach didn't turn too much. That is a wild and fascinating tale. We'll be back next Tuesday with another episode, and we'll see you then. Thank you very much. Goodbye.